Good morning, sports fans. You're listening to 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio.
This is Eric Hatfield along with Coach Perry Daniels, and we are here to bring you the latest, the greatest, the best, and the most entertaining in high school, college, and professional sports. You are listening to Louisiana All-American Sports. Ain't nobody, don't ask me. Good morning, Baton Rouge. It's another fantastic Saturday morning, and you're listening to Louisiana All-American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. This is Eric Hatfield.
And I'm Professor Terrell Johnson.
And we are ready and set for another Saturday chock full of sports here on WHYR. Football season is in full swing and full effect, and last night was Friday, so the boys of the prep schools were on the gridiron, hustling, bustling, dashing, and a lot of action. Of course, we on LouisianaAllAmericanSports.com, we brought you McKinley High School's homecoming game as they absolutely took the teeth out of the Tigers from Opelousas 42-0. We had a whole lot of football going on, so without further ado, Professor.
Good morning, WHYR listening audience. As Eric said, McKinley High School did celebrate our homecoming, and it was a beautiful event without blemish. Wonderful time going on. As he said, we beat them 42-0. Phenomenal team effort was put up by the Panthers, so kudos to the Panthers and much love to the McKinley Senior High School family. I want to start off by speaking about Catholic High and Geis. Geis is on a record-breaking pace. He's scorching all teams that he encounters. Running back Geis paces Bears with 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, this guy had rolled up more than 200 all-purpose yards, defeating Denham Springs 35-13. 143 yards last night on 13 attempts. This guy is, he's just, I mean, that's NFL status, really. Let me run through some scores real quickly in the area. Northeast defeated Tara 8-6.
That program has come a long way, Professor. I'm impressed with Northeast.
Northeast has turned around. They have had a major turnaround. They have indeed. Scotlandville beat Glen Oaks, upended Glen Oaks 47-6. Lutcher beat West Jefferson 42-28. Capital finally got a win. Capital defeat Generate. Shout out to the Capital Golden Lions, 33-22. Woodlawn Shreveport beat Booker T. Washington 48-6. University High upended LaGrange 27-26 in a real close game. Madison Prep 48-0 over Redemptors. They blanked the Herald, the powerful Redemptors Wolves. I'm kind of surprised at that one. Santa Mar defeated H.L. Bourgeois 55-12. So we had a lot of upsets last night, a lot of routes, Eric.
Talk about handing out beatdowns. That was there was some wide margins in the world of high school football last night. No getting around that.
Yes,
but Darren Geis, that is a special athlete, man. That dude is a beast. You know, he had that injury early last season, and he was a kind of tentative for the remainder of the 2013 season, but young people heal quickly, and clearly he did, as he is running all over everybody, everywhere. He is just something else.
He is running rough shot. I mean, this is a grown man. I haven't seen him play personally yet, but I'm going to make it my mission to go and see this young man. He is a phenomenal talent. He's a phenom.
How Lil Wayne said he's Go ahead.
Guys, I have a special guest on the line. One of the games that I did not hear the score of, which was a very close game in the area last night, was between the A-Meat Warriors and the Southern Lab Kittens. And Southern Lab fell in defeat 20-16 to the the A-Meet Warriors, and we have on the line Coach Nick Mitchell with us. Coach, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am. I appreciate you guys having me.
Morning, Coach.
Fantastic. We appreciate you joining us,
Yes,
Coach.
sir.
Talk to us about last night's game.
Well, last night we played against a very quality opponent named Meet. Coach Foster and I went to school together here at Southern, and last year, whenever we played that football team, we had some turnovers. We made a few mistakes, and at that point we were really trying to make sure that we understood as a team the game of football and how to play it the right way. And this year, we had it as our mission to come out and play better and to play as a team. And they came out, very, very fast from the very beginning and kind of showed what A-Meet Warrior football is really about, which is running the football and playing power football. And we responded to it. I think our guys did a very good job. But at the end of the day, we had six turnovers. We still had some guys that were banged up that didn't play in the game. And it ended up, in their decision. But I like the fact that this game revealed the character of our guys, and it showed that we were willing to fight and we were willing to live and die with each other. And I'm very proud of our efforts, but unfortunately we didn't come out with a win.
Coach, you've had a strategy, I guess, that I've been able to observe the last two seasons. Last year, you played some very high, some opponents out of your classification, above your classification, took some lumps early in the season, and then were pretty competitive in district play. When the playoffs rolled around, you guys were able to get all the way to the state semifinals. This year, on paper, the team is 0-3, but you played three very good opponents. You had a meet team they're in the playoffs every year. As you said, they run hard. You had U-High last week in what was a very close game. It looks like the tough opponents this year, the games are very competitive as opposed to last year where you all had some growing pains. Does it look like this year, how are you feeling going into district play this year, kind of with that strategy of toughening them up with the tough opponents?
Definitely, I like our chances. There's a lot of growth and development that we've experienced as a football team, especially on defense. And I knew going in after last year, and even the year before, when all of those juniors that are on the football field right now were freshmen, that it was just going to be a matter of time. Whenever we scheduled some of these tough opponents, we knew that it was going to prepare us to go into hostile territory late in the playoffs. We knew it was going to give us a chance to play against quality competition. And we also knew that with the experience that we had, it was going to take our young kids from being freshmen and sophomores to now seniors as far as the number of games we played and the type of opponents that we played. We knew it was going to come out in our favor once the playoffs got here. So that's pretty much the exact same plan. This year, we just want to make sure that we get to that point in district healthy. And I was talking to some people about that last night. The minute that we can get every single warm body that we have on our football team with the athletic ability that we do have on the field at one time, I think we're going to be a very dangerous team. And I'm looking forward to that.
Hey, Coach, let's talk about some of those warm bodies. You have a team that is being heavily recruited from different NCAA programs. Can you talk about some of those players and some of the programs that have visited your practices?
Yes, sir. We'll start off with the quarterback, Blazer Field. He's had offers from Nebraska, Arizona State, Oregon, Ole Miss. Florida State is on the radar right now, and so he's a highly touted quarterback who's got a bright future at the position. One of our receivers, Travis Abraham, he's being looked at right now by LSU. He's being looked at by Nebraska, also Iowa and Florida State. We have another young man named Xavier Bell, who's a sophomore receiver who already has offers from Tulane. And on our offensive line, we have our left tackle, who also plays center, Chad Smith, Jr., who's being looked at right now by Mississippi State and Texas A&M. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, our defensive end, Deion Rainey, who's being looked at right now by Alabama and LSU, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and also Georgia. We also have another young man named Christopher Allen, who's being recruited by LSU. He just doesn't have an offer yet, but he's a sophomore. Devon Ferguson, who has offers from Central Michigan, UL Lafayette,
Now, Coach, that's an awful lot of talent, and one of Louisiana All-American Sports' favorite players in the area wasn't even mentioned. We have to ask you, what's the situation with Derek Pate?
Derek Pate right now is coming off of a serious injury from last football season, and he's still now working himself into the offense and also the special teams part of our program. It was a very, very, very serious injury, but he's now probably back at around 85 to 90%. He's right now on the radar of the University of Houston and also a couple other schools in Texas, and he's doing very well. He's coming back strong. We're working him in slowly because we know that once district gets here, that's when we're going to need him the most. And so he's working at the quarterback spot, at the receiver spot, a little at running back. He's also working in our kicking game as a punt returner and a kickoff returner. So he's going to be ready when the time comes. But we don't want to take it too fast because with the growing, especially with Derek, his feet are what's going to make him money in life. So we got to make sure we take him one day at a time and bring him along slowly.
Awesome. Couple more questions, then we're going to let you go, Coach. One, last night in the area, a lot of single-A schools that are traditional powers fell. West St. John lost to Riverside. White Castle lost to Donaldsonville. In your district, Christian Life lost to Ascension Catholic. Who do you see as the major competition for you Southern Lab Kittens in the classification, in that single-A classification?
Well, once the playoffs start, of course, with the select and non-select split that we have this year, we're going to be able to, go through our district with the competition that's going to prepare us for the playoffs with teams like West St. John, who we played in our scrimmage game, and along with some others at Kentwood. Also going to be, forever is going to be a traditional powerhouse. The good thing about where it's set up right now for us as a football team is the experience that we're getting is going to prepare us for some of the other teams that are going to be in that select group, which also I noticed a couple of those guys that lost last night. I think Washington Christian and Cedar Creek, a couple of those guys. So it lets me know that the parity is starting to creep into the select and the non-select 1A schools, but also those schools that are in that 1A division and the 1A classification. Those teams are doing pretty much the same, following the same script as us. They're playing up in class because they know once 1A starts, the playoffs start, they're going to have to be prepared, just like we're going to have to be prepared to play against stiff competition in hostile environments, and we have to play for 4 quarters in order to come out with victory.
Absolutely. Last thing, let's talk a little bit more about that district that you're in. The professor mentioned earlier that Madison Prep beat Redemptors pretty handily, and that I know that Redemptors program isn't as what it used to be. So it's not quite as impressive as he made that sound. But let's talk about those teams in your district, and do you see Kentwood being the formidable challenge to a district championship for you guys?
Well, once we get to our district schedule, hopefully we have everybody healthy so that we can play our best football every night that we play. Kentwood, for so many years, has been, not only a rival for us, but it's been an opponent that we've had to prepare and play our very best. With Madison Prep under Coach Roach, they're a fine football team and a great football program, and they have a lot of great coaches over there. They're going to be a team in our district now in the second year that we're going to have to play our best football in order to get on the field and come out with victory. But our district, I believe, is one of the tougher ones, especially at the top. But the other teams that are in the district are quality opponents that if you don't play well, it's going to be a long night. So with Kentwood, yes, it's going to be one of those games where we've got to play our absolute very best. And we play against Madison Prep, also the same thing, because they're right down the street. There's a lot of kids on our program that know and have played football against some of the kids in their program. But Roach and I have known each other for a couple of years now, and I know one thing. He's going to run the football. He's going to play great defense. Same thing with Kentwood. Same thing with Christian Life and now Warner night out.
Coach, thank you for joining us on Louisiana All-American Sports. We love the Southern Lab Kittens, and we look forward to covering one of your games this year.
Much appreciated, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
That was Coach Nick Mitchell of the Southern Lab Kittens, 2013 state semifinalists in Class A Select, and they will be starting District 6-1A play very shortly. They are a team to watch out for. Coach Mitchell has done an incredible job in a very short period of time making that program something to be respected and taken very seriously. So we'll be watching them very, very closely this year and giving you the update on Louisiana All-American Sports. Well, now that we've touched on our high school guys, we're going to go from the little boys to, I believe we're going to go to the big boys. Perry, you still there?
I'm still here.
All right, you want to go to the big boys next?
Hey, yeah, let's move on.
All right, in the National Football League. Well,
Where do we begin?
well, we can begin. It's funny. Talk show host Jim Rome always says he doesn't root for teams; he roots for something to talk about. Well, we got plenty to talk about. I just don't feel like talking about any of it. But I'll start with the lightest of the subject, and that's our New Orleans Saints. 0-2. They went on. They had 2 games on the road. Close game against their arch rival Atlanta Falcons. Okay. Cleveland Browns, same pattern we're noticing here. A lot of self-inflicted wounds by the Saints, penalties, turnovers, blown assignments. The secondary is just a black hole or a light hole if you're the opposing offense. I don't know what you call it, but the Saints have got to tie it up and get it together. They're going back into the Superdome tomorrow against the Minnesota Vikings. Sean Payton has not lost a game as head coach in the Superdome since 2010. We have an Adrian Peterson-less Minnesota Vikings team playing tomorrow, and there'll be more on that shortly. But from just the football standpoint, I am optimistic that the Saints can get that first win tomorrow against the Vikings, but while I'm optimistic, I'm also on the edge of my seat because they absolutely, positively cannot start 0-3 and expect to have any kind of a meaningful season this year.
Well, Eric, I agree with you overall that you should be optimistic because the Saints are going to get a win tomorrow against the Adrian Peterson-less Vikings, but the Saints secondary is so suspect. They really need to spice that secondary up.
Coach?
I agree. I agree, man, and this is exactly what the Saints needed. A team that doesn't quite have all of their bullets in their gun, so to speak, with the Minnesota Vikings, and a home game. These Saints look like a totally different team when they're at home, and I think that the Saints Nation needs to keep in mind, even though they're 0-2, those were very close losses each time, and they were each on the road. So it's not as bleak as it sounds at 0-2.
You have a point. I mean, both of the losses were losses on walk-off field goals. One in overtime, one as time expired, or last play from scrimmage. They were close games. And interestingly, I heard I have not verified this, but I heard it on a local radio show. One of the guys said the Saints have scored more points than any other team in the NFL, which is nice, but you got to score more points than your opponent on that day. The defense has got to get it together. The crowd in the Superdome, Perry, and you touched on that, the Saints Nation, the Who Dat Nation, is going to give that defense a lift. It's just, any quarterback will tell you, it's an imposing and daunting 12th man. As good as Seattle's is, we have a pretty tough 12th man down in New Orleans, and I think it's going to help them a little bit. The Vikings, with Matt Cassel at quarterback, he just looks like a fill-in until Teddy Bridgewater's ready, and now they don't have the bullets in the gun with the running game. Defense is okay, but I don't think it'll be enough to shut down Drew Brees. So I've said this 3 weeks in a row, but I have optimism. I'm right this time. I think the Saints are going to win this game. I think they'll cover the spread. I think it's going to be, I expect it to be kind of one-sided, honestly.
Well, let me say that the Saints are ranked 31st out of 32 teams defensively in the NFL. Giving up 446 yards a game.
Wow, that's atrocious.
That's not the right direction to be going in, and you're not going to win games in the NFC. Well, you're not going to win games like that, period.
Well, I think that Drew Brees on his best days, can Drew Brees really be stopped? I mean, Drew Brees has a rocket arm. excellent decision-making skills, and when he's clicking on all cylinders, he's unstoppable.
He is, Professor. And the thing is with Drew Brees, and I've said this a few times before in a few articles I've written for my blog, thedailyhattrick.com, that the thing that's stopping Drew Brees is a top-tier quarterback. He's one of the top 4 in the league, but the thing that's always kept him from being number 1, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but the ones he makes absolutely bring you to your knees. And we've seen 2 weeks in a row now, the interception in the end zone against the Falcons, and that was all on Drew. And then the pick 6 against Cleveland, that wasn't entirely his fault. Terran Armstead missed a block. He was blindsided, made the ball lift, went through Jimmy Graham's hands. There was a little fault to go around, but the point is when he's not, the few mistakes he makes, the few times he makes mistakes, it hurts. It's like a stab to the heart for the Saints. And he in the Superdome against this opponent, I think this is the week he has got to look at his film, do whatever he's got to do, play conservative not conservative by Sean Payton and Drew Brees standards, but play his conservative game and get that win, and just don't make any big mistakes.
Well, Eric, Drew Brees is ranked 5th in passing in the NFL behind number 1, Matt Ryan, number 2, Nick Foles, 3, Matthew Stafford, 4, Ben Roethlisberger, then Drew Brees with 570 yards. We see a lot of times with quarterbacks with strong arms, they throw a lot of interceptions because they have so much confidence and faith in their throwing ability. So they make passes that average quarterbacks won't attempt to make.
Yeah, you're correct, Perry. And Drew Brees is one of the most, let me tell you, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Saints fan. I do think as far as being able to put the ball on a pinpoint spot, I think he's the most accurate quarterback I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've been watching football a long time. But with that confidence, like you pointed out, with that confidence, if he's off his mark and he tries to thread that needle a little too finely and doesn't put the ball exactly where it needs to go, that confidence can lead to turnovers. And it's one of those, it's a delicate balancing act with guys of his caliber. How do you want to make those throws that nobody else can make, and that's what separates the winners from the losers, but you've got to know when you're taking too much risk versus the reward. And I think, the last 2 weeks, especially the Atlanta game, a little bit too much risk, not enough reward. I do think against the Vikings he'll have more opportunity, and he's not going to be facing as opportunistic a secondary as he did against Cleveland, certainly.
Well, Eric, Barry?
No, go ahead, Professor.
No. I was saying Eric made a statement that Drew Brees is the most accurate quarterback that he's ever seen. That's a very strong statement. I'm going to play devil's advocate because I would venture, I'm going to have to disagree with Eric there because I don't think that Drew Brees is as accurate as a Dan Marino. I mean, in my opinion, I think Dan Marino was a...
He was up there.
Yeah.
And I'm like I said, I don't say that lightly. I mean, I would. He's up there. Marino's up there. He's one of my favorites too.
Sir.
But
yes, sir.
But no, I don't say that lightly. And I say all that to say that it's one of those things that can boost his confidence, and maybe a little too much at times. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed for our Saints. That was the sad thing is, talking about our 0-2 Saints was the happy NFL news. Let's talk about some more football, though, Perry. I know this. Let's talk about the gridiron a little bit before we get on to the stuff that makes us want to put our faces into our palms.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're all on record as having the Saints with a victory this weekend.
Yes, sir. I have the Saints, and I have them to cover. Professor has the Saints, and you have the Saints too, I assume, Perry?
I have the Saints as well.
All right, well, let's hope we're right. Let's hope we're all in that boat together. We're going to sink or swim on this one. Other National Football League action. We have the Denver Broncos and Seattle Seahawks. Perry, I cannot remember who the home team is. Is that game being played at the 12th man?
I believe it is.
So that's going to be we better find out exactly. Professor, could you check and see where that's going to be, just to make sure? Because I think that's going to be the difference in this game. You have a rematch of
I tell you what we do know, Eric. Wherever it is, there'll be a lot of marijuana there.
Oh, my goodness.
It's going to be a party. It is going to be a party going on, baby. It's going to be celebrating good times and Kool and the Gang and Ziggy Marley and Bob Marley and what's the Grateful Dead and all those other classics that go along with smooth, mellow moves of Mary Jane. Oh, yeah. Well, no, I'll tell you what. Hopefully, the Peyton Manning's not going to look like he was on Puff Puff Give like he was in the Super Bowl, because from the opening salvo that was fired, that game completely got away from them. Right now, Manning and the Broncos look just as good as last year, maybe even a little sharper. They just they look so good. I mean, I can't even. Manning is 38 years old, and he is, in my opinion, at this moment, the best quarterback in the NFL right now today. Seattle was looking, go after dismantling Green Bay in the opening game of the season, looked like they were coasting along until they ran into the San Diego Superchargers, and Phillip Rivers showed that you can beat the Legion of Boom if your best players step up and make big plays. Antonio Gates came back from the dead. He must have had a drink from the fountain of youth with 3 touchdowns. Peyton Manning has more weapons and is, first of all, a better passer than Phillip Rivers, although Rivers is good, and he has more weapons than Phillip Rivers, although Rivers has good weapons. So the venue is going to be really important, which is why I want to find out where this is. I think if it's in Seattle, I think the Seahawks hold on for dear life.
It is in Seattle.
It is in Seattle. I think the Seahawks hold on for dear life. Beast mode is still beast mode. Russell Wilson's one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league, possibly the smartest as far as brains per body. In other words, he's not a big guy, but he makes great decisions with his mind and with his feet. And that 12th man is a fool, but Denver that's going to be a close game.
It is. It is.
Perry, I know you wanted to get in on this one.
Well, yeah, man, it's just hard to imagine that the Seahawks will lose 2 in a row.
Right.
So I'm going to have to go with Seattle on this one. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Seattle because they're at home. Although Denver has the motivation of trying to replay the Super Bowl. They're hyped about this game.
You know they're licking their chops. They're licking their chops, and they're hot. I mean, week 1, they went through Indianapolis like it was, on both sides of the ball, like it was nothing. You know Indy's defense is mediocre, but their offense, they have Andrew Luck, and they made him look like a rookie all over again. And then last week, Kansas City played a really good game. They ran the ball well. Alex Smith made good decisions. Just Denver was too much. Denver's defense, now that they're healthy this year, they had a lot of injuries last year with Von Miller and so on, but Denver's and now they have DeMarcus Ware, rushing the edge. He still has a couple of bullets left in his gun in his career. The attention is going to be on Peyton Manning. No getting around that. But Denver's defense is probably going to be the X factor in this game. If they can contain Wilson, if they can keep Marshawn Lynch from running all over them, if they can keep Percy Harvin from being Percy Harvin when he's at his best, they can keep this score close. They can have a chance. I mean, I definitely wouldn't put money on this game, but I'm not going to go against Seattle at home until I see Seattle get whooped at home. And we have also the Carolina Panthers and Pittsburgh Steelers. Perry, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You know what? Due to time, man, let's just, instead of breaking that one down, let's just pick somebody in that game.
I'm going to pick the Panthers. They look good. Cam Newton looks good. The Steelers defensively just look a little lost. I'm going to go with the hot hand right now.
And I'm going to go with Carolina, too, man. Cam Newton is back. I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh. That's my frat brother. He's the coach up there, but he's going to have to get things together. The Steelers just look so lethargic and lackluster, Perry.
I'm going to go with them to upset the Seahawks. Upset the Panthers, though. Yes, I am.
Really, Coach?
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I hope you're correct, man. I'd love to be wrong on this one, buddy. So, and then of course, the Saints are climbing up a hill because that will put Carolina at 3-0. The Falcons are already 2-1 after the Devin Hester show on Thursday night. That was just almost comical. It was so sad. So the Saints have got their work cut out. We'll be watching those NFC South opponents this week. So I think
let's go to break, Eric, and talk.
All right. So we'll be back. It'll probably give us, I'd say about maybe 90 seconds. We'll be back. You are listening to Louisiana All-American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. Sit tight.
Lord, it's so hard living this life. Drive a bird with a stove ride. Church to drop it chicken in yesterday's grease. Then go together with this car.
That's for our folks in the good ATL. We know that the owner of the Hawks didn't show you any respect, so we figured we would show you some today on Louisiana All-American Sports radio show. And now we will transition to our history lesson and the professor.
That's right. It's Professor Terrell Johnson's history class. Professor, class is in session.
Peace and blessings, family. I am always so excited and have a measure of youthful exuberance when Eric plays Show 'Em What You Got by P.E. and the illustrious Chuck D. Good afternoon, WHYR listening audience, and as Eric has introduced me, I am Terrell Johnson, the professor, wanting to share knowledge with you and making truth manifest at all times, filling in the historical gaps that have been left for you there. Today I want to briefly talk about, I was mentioning it last week, about the 42 negative confessions, which is a segment that comes from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which is actually called the Book of Coming Forth by Day and by Night. And the 42 negative confessions is a set of ethics, a set of codes that the Egyptians lived by, which are synonymous with the 10 Commandments. As I was speaking last week, if Moses was raised in the house of Pharaoh and was privy to this ideology, he would have known, and it would have been very easy for him to manifest or adopt 10 of these commandments. But the 42 negative confessions of Mayat is the symbol of justice and equality, which her symbol is a feather. And in the Book of Coming Forth by Day and Night, the feather is measured in that mythology with the heart. And if the heart is found wanting against the weight of a feather, then you go into the hellfire, or if your deeds have been proper, you're transitioned into Elysian fields or into the paradise. So I just wanted to again briefly mention that for those of you that are familiar with Egyptology per se, if you will, the 42 negative confessions and the principle of Mayat.
Professor Johnson, always we seem to learn a little something every time we step into your history class. It doesn't always have to translate to the gridiron because, as I always say, or not the gridiron, doesn't always have to translate to the playing surface because sports is often a microcosm of life. And everything in your history class, at some point, sooner or later, we always can find a way to tie it back into some story in the sports world. So, Professor, as always, I feel like my brain is enlarged a little, has been enriched a little bit after being in history class, especially with some of these stories that make my IQ points drop a few.
Well, thank you, Eric. We appreciate this, and if I can continue to do anything to enlighten you and our listening audience, and as it is said, man sharpen man and steel sharpen steel. So we're going to continue on the path, Eric. And
I like your closing, your usual closing.
Again, I was about to say that, but always investigate the information that you receive. If it is indeed the truth, verily, it shall stand the test of investigation. So if I tell you anything, if Coach Daniels tells you anything, or if Barack Obama shares anything with you, look into it. Check it out.
And that was Professor Johnson's history class. Yeah, he showed us what he's got.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So,
yes, sir, Eric.
Well,
yes, sir.
It is Saturday morning, and so we, of course, have two schools. We have two felines, two sets of cats that all the listening audience, or a lot of the listening audience, wants to know about. So we're going to go ahead and start with the school on the bluff. Coach, take her away.
Hey, man, the Southern University Jaguars we have to get to today. They took a shellacking last week at the hands of the Northwestern State Demon Deacons. And the final score was 56 to, I don't even know if Southern scored.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. However, this week, they're in the SWAC. This is their SWAC opening game. They traveled to Prairie View. And for the first time since 1967, this game will be held on the campus of Prairie View. Oh. And it's a little stadium that holds about 5,000 people.
Wow.
And they are extremely excited about having this game on campus in Prairie View. Normally, Prairie View plays their games in Houston. They've even played Southern a few times recently in Shreveport for Prairie View home games. But this time they have taken it to their own campus. And Coach Heisman Northern, who is a Glen Oaks High graduate and a Southern University graduate, he is the head coach of Prairie View, says that it's sort of like a homecoming type of atmosphere anytime they play Southern. And Prairie View is right now 0-2. Southern is 1-2. Prairie View lost their SWAC opener to Texas Southern. and they're looking to get into the win column. Say, guys, I'm getting a lot of win from someone. Okay, there we go. But this should be a very interesting SWAC game. One player to watch for the Prairie View A&M Panthers is Jonte Hebert, another Glen Oaks High graduate. He's a junior there at Prairie View. In last year's game, he rushed 22 times for 153 yards. Southern won that game last year on the Bluff, 62-59.
A lot of defense. A lot of defense in that game.
And Jonte Hebert actually led the SWAC with 159 all-purpose yards per game last season. So he's the key guy for the Panthers. For the Jaguars, man, because we've had so many injuries on the Bluff and academic issues, it's just next man up is the motto of Coach Odoms, and that's what they have to do. I expect a big game from former McKinley High player and McKinley High graduate Leonard Tillery today, who's been inserted back into the lineup at the running back position. For some reason, he has fallen far on the depth chart, and now he seems to be out of Coach Odom's doghouse, and I expect a big game out of him this afternoon.
Coach Odom's doghouse is the doghouse I would never want to be in, and I've never played for the man. I would bow down to whatever that guy has to say. I have confidence in the Jaguars. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to take it to Prairie View. I think the Jags. I think that tune-up they got last week gave them a little bit of a wake-up, and Dawson Odoms has made a lot of adjustments, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. At least last year, that's what we saw. So I like the Jags in this game. Professor?
Well, two things I want to point out. I think that Southern's inconsistency at quarterback will play a role in this game, and also injuries at the running back as well, and their offensive line seems a bit unstable. However, on the flip side of the coin, Prairie View is allowing 502 yards a game and 296 rushing yards, and they're last in points allowed at 42.5. So, again, I think this is going to be another high-scoring fiasco. 502 yards total offense allowed. That's a lot of yards, so it might be like a semi-flag football game out there.
Oh, we know what the SWAC, they like to air it out. They will air that ball out.
Hey, Eric, I'm going to go with Southern as well. And before we transition across town, man, we have a caller on the line. Sometimes in studio, co-host last night did a fantastic job on the Louisiana All-American Sports.com broadcast of the McKinley Homecoming. We have Joker P on the line, and he wants to give his picks on the Saints game, and I think he wants to talk a little Southern University and LSU. Go ahead, Joker.
Oh, how you guys doing?
Joker P, what's up, man?
What's going on with the professor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to give shouts out to Eric Hatfield, and I don't say Professor Johnson, I say the Professor Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Piper.
Give it out to. Good morning, man. I mean, I've been checking in you guys. Great show, and it's I'm loving what I'm hearing. You know, I think that we all can agree with the Saints. I think that this game here is going to really be a make it or break it game, because if they lose this game, then I mean, I'm looking at it like, wow, you know, it'll show that where they really are. If their defense cannot hold these people with Adrian Peterson being gone, then that'll really show us what direction that the Saints are going in. And so I agree, just like everybody else, with the home team. You know, we win a lot at home. That's our advantage. And I think that we should be able to pull out. I think they'll cover the spread, and I think they'll really, this is a rebound game. I think we have a lot to prove. So I think this is actually going to be a blowout. That's what I'm predicting for this week. Southern, after getting a shellacking last week, I think that I'm kind of up in the air about this game. We should win. I think that we should win, but I don't want to stick my neck out there too much. Of course, I'm riding with the Jaguars. I'm riding with Coach Odom. You know, kind of reminds me of Big Worm. You know.
I knew that was coming. I knew that.
Play with my money's like play with my emotions, Smokey.
Right. It's about principality, Southern. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think they're going to do good. And I wanted to speak also on that Denver and Seattle game, the rematch for the Super Bowl. Like you said, it's in Seattle with the 12th man, and I want to see how Peyton Manning is really going to respond to this game. You know, this is going to be a real big game for the psyche, I think, of the Broncos, because you know it very well could be a rematch again. And if they go in there and get a shellacking like they did in the Super Bowl, I think that it'll really mess with their confidence. You know.
Okay, well that's a good analogy, but who are you picking?
I'm picking Seattle. You know, I'm picking Seattle.
Perry made you crawfish out of that one.
I know, I caught that.
Yeah. I hear Seattle has the better bud too. You know. So.
You know, Peyton Manning made a comment earlier this week. You know, he owns all those Papa John's franchises. He said, you know, business has been really good since some of the pizza-friendly laws in Colorado have changed. That dude is a character. I will give him that. He's got a long career after football's over. He is a wit. But I'll tell you what, Joe, you'll have an opportunity to tell us whether or not you told us so, or we'll know who told who so. But it's time to bring back a favorite Louisiana All-American sports topic for the next 120 seconds. I think we should treat our audience back to the return of I Told You So.
Great job last night, Joker P.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.
A field goal in overtime. So this week the Saints have the Cleveland Browns coming up. Not quite as daunting an opponent. Cleveland's a team to watch out for. They gave Pittsburgh a run last week. They have a tough defense, and it's always hard to win on the road. And fans should not be too comfortable going into tomorrow. I'm gonna let you guys get on some of that action.
Yeah, first off, I want to say, we talked about this last week, me and Perry and everything, and from my understanding, I did say last week that the Saints would score over 30 points. So maybe Cleveland is not as good as we think.
So let's get our picks on record for that Saints game today.
Oh, I like the Saints, and I like them to cover. I think the spread's 6 points. I mean, I expect them to win this game. I expect them to win.
I'm taking the Saints over 48. The combined score is over 48.
Yeah. Really, under?
I think maybe the weather, and I think that I don't know if Cleveland. I think our defense has something to prove, and I think that I don't know if Cleveland can put up that many amount of points. I think we'll probably maybe put up 27. So I'm going 27-14.
No.
Noel Jackson with music satisfaction.
And that's coming up in about 12 minutes on WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio 96.9 FM. So there is another game that we have going on, of course. We have the Louisiana State University Tigers in their SEC debut as they will host the Mississippi State Bulldogs, who are coming to Baton Rouge. The Mississippi State Bulldogs have not beaten LSU in this century. And they have not won a game at Tiger Stadium since 1991. They have not beaten LSU since thrashing them at the end of the DiNardo era in 1999. Dan Mullen has turned that program around 180 degrees. The front seven they have on defense is the real deal. They have a few NFL prospects on there. They have some men in the linebacking core and on the defensive line. The Bulldogs secondary is good enough, but actually it's definitely where their Achilles heel is. On the other hand, with LSU, my expectations of LSU was not a very strong passing game, a stable of horses in the backfield, good defense but not great. What we've gotten is not a lot of action in the passing game, although Jennings has made some key plays at key moments, and he's comfortable managing the offense. We've definitely gotten the horses, in the stable of horses in the backfield. The defense, based on these 3 games, has exceeded expectations. Last year, even against the mid-majors, they had some hiccups since that since falling behind Wisconsin 24-7, they haven't given up a single point. They've been on like 108-0 run or something ungodly like that. They're going to be tested today. Dak Prescott, the quarterback for the Mississippi State Bulldogs, the media was clamoring on him in the offseason, and so far he's lived up to the hype. Decent arm, great plays with his feet. Mississippi State can pound the rock too. A lot of folks are saying Mississippi State can win this game. I don't believe that in my gut. Of course, I could be looking at it through purple and gold shades, but I do think LSU's defense, if they continue to play as well as they've played and execute the way they've executed, I think Mississippi State's going to have a tough time. And I think Traven Durrell and Anthony Jennings have a good chemistry going when LSU does put the ball in the air, and I think they can take advantage of that Mississippi State secondary.
Well, Eric, I think you have a proclivity to lean toward LSU, and rightly so, you're an alumni. However, numbers don't lie, but they can be manipulated. And you just ran off a whole slew of facts. They hadn't won a game in Tiger Stadium since when?
1991.
Since the close of the Donato era. All those are major factors. I think that LSU will again get a win against Mississippi State.
All right.
I agree. LSU will win that game. It may be closer than normal, but LSU should win, man. Hey, do you want to skip the Florida game and go to baseball?
Yeah, we haven't talked about our boys of summer in a long time. I think with the season winding down, I think we should give them a couple of minutes. Don't y'all think?
Go ahead.
Let's do it.
All right. So look, Major League Baseball. We have the pennant races. You know, I got to say, I was trying to find some of the old archives of I Told You So, because Perry just hit the nail on the head with the American League West. I really thought when the Oakland A's got the trade for John Lester and Jeff Samardzija and Jason Hamill that it was going to be over and done with, but the A's have gone on a collapse, the likes of which I've never seen, and the Los Angeles Angels have clinched the American League West for the first time since 2009, and Perry was all on that from the beginning of the season. He said the Los Angeles Angels would take that division, and lo and behold, they have. So Perry, I gotta tip my hat to you on having the foresight on that team. They've done just what you said, and they're poised for a postseason run.
Absolutely, Eric. Here's what it's going to come down to. That team is so solid at the plate that they have a legitimate chance to win it all.
They do.
And the one thing that can prohibit them from winning the AL pennant are the Detroit Tigers and that pitching staff that they have.
The Tigers' pitching staff, their starting five is absolutely ridiculous. You have Justin Verlander, you have Max Scherzer, you have Rick Porcello, who's like kind of an also-ran. They acquired David Price. They are so solid in that pitching rotation at the start, it's unbelievable. Their problem, though, is that bullpen it smells like bull, you know what. The middle relief is awful. Jobber Chamberlain looks like Jabba the Hutt when he gets on the mound this year. Joe Nathan used to be a daunting closer. He has let a lot of stuff slip, and he's gotten worse the season's going on. They're going to have to get 7 or 8 innings out of their starters in playoff games to win, and they can do that, but it's not easy even for guys at that level. So the Detroit Tigers are going to be a team to watch. Of course, they need to put the Kansas City Royals away, but as I had suggested a few times during the season, the Tigers just don't seem to get a sense of urgency until they need to have a sense of urgency in the regular season. I do expect them to put that division away. To catch our listeners up, LA has clinched the West. Detroit is a game and a half ahead of Kansas City in the AL Central. It's really going down in that division. The Baltimore Orioles, well, I just everything Buck Showalter does. That on paper, the Orioles don't stand out in any category, but as a team and the way he manages it, they've run away with the AL East. They have 13 games up. They've already clinched that division. In the National League, we had discussed a lot about the back and forth between the Washington Nationals and the Atlanta Braves, and the Braves' Tomahawks, I guess, got a little dull. Washington caught fire, and the Braves went into the tank. They're now actually a game below 500. The Nationals have clinched the National League East. The Braves have pretty much faded out of playoff contention. In the big battle, the AL Central, it looks like the Milwaukee Brewers, who got off to such a hot start, but I said I thought that was going to cool off a little bit. I just did not think they had the hitting to keep up, and they haven't. They've pretty much fallen out of that race. The St. Louis Cardinals are 2.5 games ahead of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Perry, I know you want to comment on that.
Well, I just want to say they're 2 games away from clinching the division, And this is no surprise. The Cardinals are where they always are come September, at the top of the National League Central. And what would be surprising is if they do not make it back to the World Series.
Well, I'll tell you what, they look as strong. The Cardinals they're so strong at the plate. You know, people talk about, their pitchers and Michael Wacha and Carlos Martinez in the middle relief and Trevor Rosenthal. But I'll tell you, they are so good with runners in scoring positions in the clutch situations. They are as strong as any other team. The team that I think on paper has the advantage also happens to be my team of choice, the Los Angeles Dodgers in the National League West. They are 3.5 games ahead of the Giants. It looks like that no matter what happens, the Giants are going to be in the playoffs, as are the Pittsburgh Pirates, regardless of who wins the division. Same with the Cards and Dodgers. It's just a matter of those division races shaping up. The Dodgers have already clinched a playoff berth. The Dodgers' only enemy is the Dodgers, with Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke, and looks like Hyun-Jin Ryu is going to be healthy in time for the postseason. With those guys pitching, that team looks darn near. And then Dan Harron is the quote-unquote weak link, along with Josh Beckett. Well, all 5 of those guys could be aces on some of the teams. If the pitching staff does what it's supposed to do, they look bulletproof. But the Dodgers have been a little in postseason play, so we'll see how that shapes up. It should be particularly in the National League, it should be an epic postseason. You have 5 teams going there: Washington, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, LA, San Francisco. All of them have a shot.
Absolutely. That's going to wrap it up for our Major League Baseball. Yes. Eric, as we head out, man, I've got to mention that yesterday in Arizona, Rex Chapman, former Kentucky basketball player, former Phoenix Suns guard, and former Phoenix NBA executive, was arrested for shoplifting more than $14,000 worth of Apple merchandise on 7 different occasions. He's been charged with 9 counts of organized retail theft and 5 counts of trafficking stolen property because he was taking the property and selling it to the local pawn shop. I'm not understanding that.
Wow.
That's just, what can I say for old Rex, but, whoopsie daisy. But yeah, that's stunning. It just goes. It's another example of Rex Chapman was in the NBA for a very long time, and
well, he did have great hands,
Wow, Joker, you are the comedy relief, man. You messed up the one-liner, Joker.
Clearly they weren't good enough because he got caught red-handed as opposed to Big Blue. But Chapman was in the NBA for years. So, I know he was making a good, healthy 7-figure salary, and then he was an executive with the Suns. Those guys all make high 6 figures. This guy did not need to be stealing $14,000 worth of stuff. Another example, he's either a sociopath, well, he's definitely a sociopath with that kind of theft, or he blew his money. But clearly, people are lined up for the iPhone 6. They said it'd be a feeding frenzy. They said it'd be red hot. They said the iPhone 6 would be red hot. I don't think they realized that Rex Chapman would be making them hot.
Maybe he suffers from kleptomania, guys. Maybe he's a kleptomaniac.
Wow, that's disappointing. Well,
all right, so one other thing I've got to get in, man, with all of this NFL news and the trend that the NFL seems to be taking, and Goodell, is to disassociate themselves with people with questionable outside of the football field activity. I want to point out to our listening audience, please go Google Keith Ward Jr., who was recently killed by a race car driver. What's the race car driver?
Tony Stewart. Yeah, Kevin Ward Jr. Yeah, he yes, in a sprint car race.
And Tony Stewart,
yes, sir,
will race again this weekend, and not once has anyone talked about stopping this man from earning a living, and he deliberately ran over Kevin Ward Jr. and killed him.
Ooh, that's kind of scathing.
Wow.
And not once has anyone said, well, we should take this man's livelihood away from him. So please go Google that, learn about that story. He was recently indicted,
Right.
Well, there's a grand jury convened. They don't know if they're going to indict him. There's a grand jury convened. So let's go around the horn and give final thoughts.
Roger Goodell is on fire with gasoline draws.
Yeah, and I think that where's the social media now for the Tony Stewart thing? Where's everybody at talking about that and coming out the woodworks to criticize him, criticize the commissioner of NASCAR? You know, nobody, you're not hearing it on Facebook, you're not hearing it on Twitter. And Perry, you make an absolute great point. A man's life was taken, you know, and where is the outcry for that? That's my final point. Joker P, and I'm out, baby.
Well, finally, on a lighter note, I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Garrick Mayweather at the McKinley Senior High School Alumni Center. He's the hardest working gentleman for our school, and we appreciate you. We appreciate everything you do. And again, I just wanted to acknowledge that. And Joker P, the proper pronunciation is taken. That's just the professor in me. You said tooken, and I want to just correct you online and say it's taken.
It's not my language to begin with.
As we always say around this time,
ADT, JNS, love you.
have a good afternoon.
Peace.
What's that?
Ziggy.
That's actually Perry's son. You put that together. Yeah.
That's Perry's son?
the King and lots of love. May He protect us from the evil. Hail to the King, lots of love. May He protect us from evil.